The streets smelled of smoke and promise. Men and women poured into factories as the morning sun burned through the haze. They didn't call it the American dream back then. Children ran down cobblestone streets, waving tiny flags, laughing between the sounds of factory whistles and church bells. Hope wasn't a luxury, it was the air they breathed. Out on the open plains, farmers watched trains thunder past, iron beasts pulling the future behind them. Every whistle in the distance was a promise that this land, this nation, was alive with motion, was alive. The soil, the sky, and the steel were all connected, all pushing forward towards something bigger. That dream was simple. Work hard, build a life, raise a family. The promise was that effort would always be rewarded. And for a time, it was. Then came the builders, men who saw opportunity in chaos. Railroads stretching across the continent, steel towers rising like monuments to ambition. Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford. They weren't just businessmen. They were architects of an empire. Their factories roared like gods, turning raw earth into power and profit. But their vision wasn't charity. They believed in control. Control of industries, of cities, of people. They fed America's hunger for progress and took everything it had to give. The nation rose, but so did inequality. The dream grew brighter for some and dimmer for others. Still, the people kept believing. The cities swelled with light, jazz, and money. Wall Street became the beating heart of hope and greed. Stocks soared, cars multiplied. The 1920s glowed gold, a decade drunk on its own confidence. But behind every golden age is a reckoning. One morning in 1929, the paper wealth that fueled the dream turned to ash. Panic rippled through the streets. Fortunes vanished overnight. People who once felt unstoppable now stood in line for bread. The dream that promised security had betrayed them. Factories closed, banks collapsed, and homes went dark. Families clung to survival, not success. Yet even in ruin, America refused to die. Out of the dust came defiance. Men with calloused hands rebuilding bridges. Women powering the workforce. Farmers digging through drought and despair. The government called it recovery. The people called it starting over. Together they built again, not out of greed, but necessity. By the time the war arrived, America had learned how to produce like no other nation on earth. Its factories no longer made toys or cars. They made tanks, planes, and victory. When the war ended, the world had changed. For the first time in decades, Americans believed again. Soldiers came home to a country bursting with opportunity. The old factories turned from weapons to washing machines. Highways stretched like arteries, feeding a new age of convenience. The suburbs rose. Rows of identical houses with green lawns and clean fences. A new dream was born, not of survival, but of comfort. The television became the new altar, and commercials preached a new gospel. Happiness could be bought. A house, a car, a color TV. It looked perfect from the outside. Fathers mowing lawns, mothers smiling on porches, children playing in streets named after trees. The good life, boxed and sold to millions. But under the calm exterior, something was shifting. Corporations grew powerful, replacing craftsmanship with efficiency. Decisions once made in small workshops were now dictated from high towers. Hands that built were replaced by hands that signed contracts. Profit became purpose. Factories that built the middle class began to disappear. Work went overseas, chasing cheaper labor. Towns that once thrived on manufacturing fell silent. Main streets became memories. The same nation that taught its people to build had forgotten how to make things for itself. And yet, the dream persisted. People worked harder, hoping to hold on to what their parents once had. Billboards promised that happiness was only a purchase away. But behind the shine was debt, growing quietly, invisibly, until it became the foundation of the entire economy. The 80s arrived with confidence and champagne. Credit cards glinted like gold, offering instant access to lifestyles no one could afford. America learned to live beyond its means. The mantra changed from save and build to spend and believe. Debt was no longer shameful. It was patriotic. The banks made sure of it. Buy now, pay later. Everyone deserved to live the dream, even if it meant borrowing it. Money became a mirage. Paper wealth replaced real wealth. People stopped asking what they earned and started asking what they owned. Image became the new success. By the 90s, the dream had gone digital. The world connected through wires and screens. A new generation of builders emerged, tech visionaries, working out of garages instead of factories. They promised innovation, connection, revolution. The internet exploded with potential. Dot-com startups minted millionaires overnight. Stock charts rose like rockets. It felt unstoppable, familiar, too good to question. And then, once again, it crashed. The dream, rebooted and rebranded, failed in the same way it always had, on speculation, greed, and blind faith in endless growth. But Wall Street wasn't done. When one illusion burst, it built another. This time, it was homes. Real estate became the new religion. Everyone believed the same lie. Housing prices only go up. Banks gave loans to anyone with a pulse. Mortgage papers piled higher than skyscrapers. On paper, America was rich again. But beneath the surface, the same rot spread. Greed, deception, denial. When the bubble burst in 2008, it shattered millions of lives. Families lost everything. Homes, savings, hope. The same people who were told, "You can have it all," were left with nothing. And yet, the very institutions that caused the collapse were saved first. Billion-dollar bailouts while citizens stood in unemployment lines. The dream wasn't dead. It had simply changed owners. As the dust settled, a new empire quietly took control. Not oil, not steel, but data. Tech became the new industry of power. Giants rose in Silicon Valley, young geniuses in hoodies who claimed they were changing the world. And they did, just not in the way anyone expected. Every click, every search, every like became currency. The new economy wasn't about products, but people. The same system that once demanded labor now demanded attention. The dream went digital, and with it, privacy, peace, and perspective disappeared. Perspective. For every billionaire who built an app, there were millions trapped inside it, staring into screens, chasing digital validation, mistaking consumption for creation. Wages stagnated, costs soared. The middle class, once the pride of the nation, became a fading memory. The gap widened until it wasn't a gap anymore. It was a canyon. And yet, people kept hustling. The dream was now a side gig, a hustle, a grind. Work never ended. It simply followed you home. The dream that once promised freedom had become a 24-hour subscription. But from this chaos came something new. People began to rebuild again. This time, not with steel or money, but with creativity. A laptop replaced the factory. A camera replaced the office. The internet, once the tool of corporations, became the weapon of individuals. A new generation of builders emerged. Freelancers, creators, entrepreneurs. They didn't ask for permission. They built their own paths, one click, one sale, one video at a time. For a moment, it felt like the promise had returned. Power was spreading again, decentralizing. Ordinary people were becoming extraordinary on their own terms. But history always rhymes. The platforms grew, monopolies re-emerged, and the system adapted once again. The dream was packaged, monetized, and sold back to the very people who created it. Because that's what empires do. They rise on innovation, and they fall on greed. The cycle was complete. Build, consume, collapse, repeat. From railroads to algorithms, from skyscrapers to smartphones, the tools changed, but the story didn't. And yet, beneath it all, something human survived. The spirit that began in those factories, the belief that effort could change fate, never truly died. It lived in the small moments. A parent working 2 jobs, a young creator uploading their first project, a small business daring to try again. The dream was no longer a house on a hill. It was a spark inside anyone who refused to give up. Maybe the dream was never about money. Maybe it was about movement, the unrelenting need to push forward to create, to rebuild. Every generation inherits ruins and calls them opportunity. Every collapse births a new kind of builder. The tools change, the faces change, but the fire doesn't. So perhaps the American dream didn't fail. It evolved. It became harder, faster, more complex. It shifted from the fields to the factories, from the factories to the screens. And through every transformation, one truth remained. The pursuit itself is the point, because the dream was never meant to be achieved. It was meant to be chased. That chase, that hunger, is what built nations, toppled empires, and kept people moving even when the odds said stop. And so, the dream lives on. Not in the towers of the rich or the slogans of corporations, but in the relentless will of ordinary people who keep building, keep hoping, and keep believing that tomorrow can still be better than today. No matter how many times the empire falls, the spirit remains, stubborn, restless, unbroken. That's the real American dream. Not gold, not power, not fame, just the refusal to stop reaching.